right, and welcome into the League Podcast. That would be REC, Russ, Eric, and Chris. Russ Lande from GM Junior Scouting. We got Chris Martin, former NFL defensive back, man who knows a little something about the business side of the NFL as well. I'm Eric Edholm with Yahoo Shutdown Corner blog. The three of us bring you the League. We talk NFL. We also get into a little college/draft chatter as we do every single week. And gentlemen, we're entering week 6 of the NFL. Got some good stuff to talk about, including some football stuff about a guy who has been about other things than football. That would be Colin Kaepernick, who's made waves for his pregame protest with the anthem and all that. But now it's a football discussion with him. He's earned his first start of the season. He's going to be facing a very good Bills team, a team that's played very well lately in the Buffalo Bills. And Chris, I'll come to you first. Why now? Well, I mean, obviously they had the Thursday game last week. They struggled again. The 49ers have to make some kind of change there. Chip Kelly goes to Kaepernick. What did you think when you heard the news? And can Cap have some success again?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to. And when I heard the news, I wasn't surprised. Let's face it, Blaine Gabbert's sucks. I mean, there's just no other way around it. He's not a good quarterback, at least at this juncture. And you look at him, and I think sometimes people get intoxicated on the fact that he's athletic, the fact that he's got a big arm, and he's a smart guy. But the reality was, it wasn't working. It wasn't synergy in that offense. He was not providing a lift. So at this point, you got to go to Cap. And you wonder if, he can work out and shift the system. You think he can based on his athleticism and his arm talent and what he's done in the past. So to me, this is a move to try and put a shot of adrenaline into that locker room, get these players to rally around Cap. If he can do what we think he can do, or at least what's in his body, I think this could end up being a good move for the 49ers.
Russ, there's a financial/roster element to this too. I mean, Kaepernick signed the big deal. This week they announced his contract was kind of altered here. What do you know about the contract? What does it mean for Kaepernick, both this year and next year? Because, it kind of looks like we're opening the door for him walking and going elsewhere next year, whether or not he plays well. So what did you think about that aspect of it?
Well, I think it's sort of a prove-it situation for the 49ers, and I think for Kaepernick it was a chance to say, hey, if I'm not going to be used, I want to get out of here. And I think it's going to work best for both parties. I think actually what's going to happen is I think he's going to play well. I think his being hurt this summer allowed Chip Kelly to fall in love with what could be with Blaine Gabbert. Because when you watch him in practice, he's a big strapping kid with a big league arm, with great athletic ability, and you think, I can teach Gabbert to be a good quarterback, forgetting the fact that he's failed everywhere he's been in the NFL because he's just not a natural quarterback despite having all the physical tools. And I think Kelly fell in love with that and kept thinking he could fix it. Now that Kaepernick is healthy and ready to go, I think you're going to see some of the flashes of what made Kaepernick so enticing 2 or 3 years ago. You're going to see that because in that offense, Kaepernick's going to have big windows to throw to open receivers who are stationary, not moving often, and I think he's going to get to use his athletic talent. So I really think this is going to be a bonus for Kaepernick. I think the end of the season he'll have played so well that the 49ers are either going to have to put in a bunch of money and sign him to a new deal, or he'll be somewhere else next season.
Let me play devil's advocate for a minute here. Obviously, Kaepernick had 3 off-season surgeries. He's been a little bit behind in terms of catching up to speed here. And then there's the aspect of, what was the one thing Blaine Gabbert did well the first 5 weeks? And that was scramble. I mean, he's leading the NFL in quarterback rushing yards, so he was able to move with his feet pretty well when things weren't open or he didn't feel confident he could get the ball in. And that obviously is an element of Kaepernick's game that has been, favorable for him in the past as well. He can run. He's got that howitzer for an arm. So, Chris, I just wonder if Kaepernick's strengths, or at least what his strengths were 3-4 years ago, can be highlighted in offense that has, Jeremy Curley, Carlos Hyde. They've missed a couple offensive line in the last couple years. I guess I'm just wondering whether the same problems Gabbert faced with limitations might come back to kind of hurt Kaepernick a little bit.
And you could be right, and you raise a valid point, because if he's going to win, he's going to win with his feet. I mean, that's how he puts a lot of stress on the defense. But I just think you're at a point where it's the conundrum, where you got to change something up, because Chip knows that he's losing that locker room fast, and so they need to ignite a spark. So you just hope that Cap can go in there, sustain some drive, and give some confidence into an otherwise very anemic and lacking confidence type of offense.
Well, let's talk about a quarterback who gave a pretty good spark last week in our second topic here, and that's Tom Brady. I know to the shock of many, he went in and played well against the Cleveland Browns. Actually, I was the idiot who said that, maybe he'll come out rusty and all that stuff. Forget it. The guy was brilliant. Player of the week in the AFC, Offensive Player of the Week, unbelievable performance. Tapered off a little bit, but come out, Russ, and 3 straight drives, absolutely dominate that Browns defense. Hadn't been really, active and working in a game-like situation for over a month. What did you think looking back, as we sort of look back at last week, and then with an eye on going forward? They've got the 2-3 Bengals in Foxborough this week. What did you think of Brady, and how good could he be going forward?
Well, I mean, I think he's going to be Tom Brady. I don't think there's any question. He's going to be one of the 2 or 3 elite guys in the league. I think the thing that you saw right off the bat, I mean, just look around the NFL. Cam Newton's dinged up. Russell Wilson's battling through injuries. Big Ben is battling through being banged around. Brady walks out there fresh. Hasn't been hit, hasn't taken any punishment, and he looked like it. He looked like a spry young guy. He was throwing the ball all over the field. He looked like he had no issues whatsoever. All of a sudden, that offensive line that had been very up and down the first 4 weeks, they looked a little bit settled down because the ball was caught and it was out. It was out quickly. I just think this is sort of what you expect when you have a quarterback who's not only an elite quarterback, but who was fresh, had no injuries coming into the game. I sort of thought he would get better as the game went on. I did not expect him to come out first series and be like, all right, I got my foot to the pedal and we're killing it.
Oh, it's unbelievable to watch. And Chris, Brady said this week, and Brady, issues a lot of hyperbole and stuff. He says he feels better at 39 than he did at 29. And having seen last week, and you catch a Bengals team that's struggling, isn't rushing the passer all that great. I mean, look, it's not crazy, I would think, to say that they're sort of the favorites now in the AFC, or at least we've seen a little taste of what they could be. But then I'll throw one more at you, Chris. It is, can Brady find a way to enter the MVP race with a 12-game season if he plays at such a high rate? I mean, is it possible? Because what are we talking, Matt Ryan? It's not one of those early MVP fields that's completely loaded right now.
Well, I think with TB12, that is always a chance, and I wouldn't bet against him. I mean, when he's spinning the ball down the field, and you're looking at guys like Chris Hogan, running naked and making these catches, and now with the addition of Marty Bennett, I think that's been a big shot in the arm also helping this offense, because now he's even taking some of the production from Gronk from the tight end position. So keep in mind, fellas, one of the key points here on Brady is that he understands that offense better than anybody in the building there. And so for him to come out and just after all the time away, to have that type of rapport and chemistry with the receivers, I mean, it's remarkable. So it wouldn't surprise me. I would give this only caveat and say it was the Cleveland Browns, so let's kind of taper that a little bit. But he looked as sharp and as crisp as I've ever seen him. So far, he's only gotten better with age.
Let me come right back to you, Russ, real quick on the Marty Bennett factor, because they trade for him quarters on the dollar. They get him at a good value. He's going to be a free agent. Has he priced himself out now? I mean, is this the kind of thing where he ends up being a one-year Darrelle Revis kind of rental, or is he essential for the Patriots to re-sign and not only give them flexibility, but just in case Gronk ever suffers a back injury or something like that? I mean, boy, he'd be a nice plan B to have just in case.
Well, I'll say one thing. I don't think there's anything essential other than Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in New England, considering this will be year 16 in a row. They've won 10 games. So nothing's essential. But I wonder, because Bennett's known as a different guy, I wonder if being there in New England and seeing how they run it and how it's all about football, it's all about producing, and if they win 13, 14, 15 games and go deep in the playoffs, I wonder if he might say, I'm really enjoying this. I'm not going to go worry about making $7 million a year. I'll take $2 3/4, $3 million over a 3-year deal to stay here and enjoy the final part of my career. He's a different bird. I could see him being the type of guy who would do that. I don't think many guys in the NFL would, but I could see him being that type of guy.
I don't know about that, man. Come on. We heard his brother Michael. All that cat talks about is money and getting paid. Get the Brinks truck valeted and all that. Get out of here with that. No, it's going to be about money for this cat. Listen, he was in Chicago. The guy was a bit of a pariah. We see that now. But the reality is this. When he's not blasting Jason Witten and talking about Jay Cutler, he's a damn good football player. I think he just ended up in the right scheme. They know how to use him effectively. He puts a lot of mismatches in play. So if he goes out there and does his thing, he's going to get paid. I mean, you just got to be willing to deal with all the other stuff that comes with it. But he's a good football player.
I'm not even sure Bill Belichick can tame the black unicorn. Okay, he's still going to be that quirky guy, but as Chris said, excellent football player when he's fully healthy. Let's move on to topic 3. I know people who check this out may be hearing this after the game is played, but want to touch on the Thursday night game. Look, it may not be a great game on paper, but I think it's significant, guys. Broncos at Chargers, a lot going on with both teams. Broncos suffer their first loss. Gary Kubiak suffers these migraines, kind of a complex situation. He has been out of the facility this week. He will not coach this game. Joe DiCamillo is very well respected. Special teams coordinator will step in on an interim basis. And Trevor Siemian, the quarterback, appears he's going to be playing in this game. He's proclaimed himself, if not healthy, certainly ready to go for this one with the shoulder injury. On the other side of the coin, guys, and Russ, I want to hear your thoughts on the Chargers. Mike McCoy, they're 1-4. His name, hot seat, it's been mentioned. They've lost the 4 games in colossal, unbelievable late game collapses here. Friday, could we be sort of talking about him being on the really hot seat, or is this kind of a maybe end of the season decision? What do you think about the Chargers, especially if they lose this game?
You know, I mean, I'd be surprised if they made the move this early. The Chargers have done it a few times, but generally they wait till the season is over. I think the big concern there is, I think as an organization, they feel that they've got a lot of talent. When you look at that offense, they feel they've got talent. They feel they've upgraded their offensive line, and that defense they feel has made big strides. But there are real questions, I think, about whether they feel Mike can be the leader of that team to teach his team how to put a foot on a team's throat and end a game. And that to me is the sign of a great coach, is teaching a team to finish games, to win games once you get that lead. The great teams never lose games when they're up by 14 or 17 points. That to me is the issue there. That's why, while I don't think it'll happen now, I have no doubt he will not be the head coach after this year.
Well, the irony being that Mike McCoy was a kind of a better than average college quarterback, but he had a reputation for playing well in the fourth quarter, leading comebacks, that sort of thing. It's been the exact opposite. Chris, I want to go to the other quarterback, and that's Trevor Siemian. You obviously saw him play in college very closely there at your alma mater at Northwestern. We know about his career in college, split time with Kane Coulter. He was hurt, all these different factors that should have prevented him to get to this point. But it's funny to hear the talk really change now. Not only are we accepting him as a starter at this point, we saw Paxton Lynch. Yes, it's a quarterback-friendly system, but, you know, he struggled, especially with some of the protections and all that. And it almost feels like Trevor Siemian might be their best chance to win. Do you agree with that coming off their first loss?
Well, he certainly played well, and using history as the platform here, you would certainly think that is the case. Listen, I mean, Trevor Siemian was 210, 205 pounds in Northwest.
Yeah.
He has put on 25 pounds, so that's given him greater bulk, greater strength. He's at the arm talent. He's an athletic player. We know about his baseball pass. So he's playing well. If he's healthy and ready to go, he seems like he can move that offense so efficiently. And Russ, perhaps even more importantly to me, is that the guys have so much confidence in him. Like, they believe he can do it. They think he's the consummate leader and field general. So I would expect nothing less. Now, is he going to be flawless? No, he's gonna make some mistakes. He's still a young quarterback trying to figure this game out. But I think his upside right now merits him going back to the starting position.
Well, I think there's no question he deserves to be the starter. Just tell me this, though. If I'm Denver, I'm 4-1, sitting here, good chance of going to the playoffs, whether you win or lose tonight, I would tend to say I would have sat him. You get an extra 10 days of rest for that bum shoulder. Why play him against a bad team that's probably going to find a way to lose? And give him that extra 10 days so that when he comes back, he's 100%. I just worry, if I'm a Broncos guy, that somehow Bosa or Ingram scoops him up, pile drives him on that bad shoulder, and now he's out 8-10 weeks. And Lynch may be the future, but last week he sure looked like a guy that could take them out of the playoff race. So
that's a really good call. Yeah, go ahead.
That just scares me. If I'm a Broncos guy, I'm like, why are we risking Siemian now? I mean, one game, he'll be 100% or close to it for the next game. Right now they're saying he's good to play, but he's still working through issues with the shoulder. To me, that's a little risky after how poorly Lynch played last week.
That's a great point, and I wonder, I hadn't thought of it in those terms, that's a great point, but I wonder if Kubiak was going to be on the sideline this game. I wonder if he felt maybe he could managed things a little better with Lynch, and he may not have taken that risk. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I felt a little bit more comfortable designing things to Paxton Lynch's favor in that situation, but with him out of the building, and hey, listen, nothing against Joe DeCamillis. I'm happy for him. He's only gotten one head coaching interview before. So staff with, Bill Collars, well-respected, Wade Phillips. Eric Stootsville was the intern when Josh McDaniels got fired. Very experienced staff, so it says a lot. They're giving the chance to Joe D. But a very interesting point indeed. All right, I wanted to have fun with our fourth topic here a little bit because you guys have great perspective. Russ, you've worked for NFL teams in the past. Chris, you played in the NFL. You've been around the league for a long time. Two NFC North head coaches this week got a little testy with the media. One beat John Fox, the other Mike McCarthy. We'll start with Fox, Chicago Bears head coach. He was asked about the fourth down play against the Indianapolis Colts. They didn't look Alshon Jeffrey's way. And he made a comment, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but he said, it must be nice for you sports writers questioning our play calls and our designs, eating your hot dogs up in the press box. And then McCarthy, I think a day later, said something to the effect of, I don't know why I have to be out here answering your questions about what you, meaning the media, think is wrong with our offense. So, I don't know. What did you guys think? I'll leave it open to either one of you. What did you make of these comments? A little bit testy. Now, obviously, McCarthy's doing well. Fox and the Bears are struggling. That just seemed a little bit surprising for me to hear from both those guys.
Go ahead, Russ.
Well, to me, I look at two things. For Fox, I think it's just the frustration. That organization really thought they were going to make a step forward this year. They thought, from everything I heard, they thought 8 to 9 wins was possible. And it's looking like 2 or 3 is probably probable. So I think Fox is just frustrated. In terms of McCarthy, to me, it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, this is a guy, he was blessed. He goes there and he gets Aaron Rodgers, the best quarterback in football, and the offense plays very well for a long stretch. Now they're not, and he doesn't think he should be questioned about that? I mean, come on. You've had Hall of Famers all over that offense, and all of a sudden they're not playing well. Why shouldn't they ask you? Because maybe it wasn't your play calling and coaching that made them great. Maybe it was the fact that they're all great players. Maybe now that they're struggling, they can look at it and say, well, some of the guys are hurt. We've lost some guys. What are you doing as a coach? So I can understand the question. I just think, you know what? You're winning. You're in a great spot. You're not getting fired. Why get testy with the media?
Well, I think that's the rub. Is the fact that you are winning. You won a game, and then you get a question still about that. So now you got somebody that's trying to find a pimple on Miss America.
True.
And that just doesn't sit well with people. I mean, that's just the reality. Because it looks way too nitpicky. It's like, okay, bottom line, we got the W. So I think these situations are starkly different. I mean, the Bears
no doubt
seem to be freaking sinking. I mean, Fox, they're going to pick and prod and ask everything, and they should.
Yep.
They've been a more abundant organization so far this year. But for me, I can kind of understand McCarthy being a little bit heated after that. His offense now it's going to be tested against the Cowboys. But after a W and a win, to do this and split hairs, I can see where that would cause some heartburn.
And I thought the question to Fox was fair. It was, should the first read have been to Jeffrey on that play? And I understand you don't want to give away coaching strategy, and a team can look at that play and say, okay, when they line up in this formation, et cetera, Alshon's the first read. I understand not giving away sort of that advantage, but there's a better way to answer it than the way John Fox did, I thought. That's just my 2 cents on the thing. And I wonder if it doesn't reflect not only the frustration that you said, Russ, but maybe a guy who's starting to feel a little bit of heat from within the organization of, hey, if I have a 2 or 3 or 4 win season, am I going to be around in 2017? I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think he'll be there because that number is so big that he's getting paid that he'll get another year. And I almost think, and I hate to say this because I like Ryan Pace, I like John Fox, I almost think the organization may give Fox another year so that if they end up a year from now deciding to move on from Fox, that they can move on from Pace at the same time and get rid of both of them and bring somebody else in. And I hate to say that because they're good people, and I think they're good at what they do. I think they're just stuck in a bad situation and made a fateful decision when they first got the gig of not taking the salary cap hit and just blowing Cutler out of there. Because I think if they had done that, they'd be in a much better spot right now than they're looking at.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that, E. I think they are wonderful people. There's no doubt about it. But there's a lot of pressure, on this. I mean, we remember Virginia McCaskey saying about the last regime, how everything was just so brutally bad. You got to imagine that for her right now, this
All right, guys, very important question to wrap this thing up. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Chris, I'm coming to you first. Come on, give it to me. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
You got me on that one.
It's an existential conundrum.
It's a great question.
A hamburger is a sandwich to me.
Right. Russ, what do you say?
I don't think it's even, no way. It's not something they make at a deli. It's something that's sitting there at a deli. So, no, it's not a sandwich.
And that is a flawed argument. You guys are both wrong. Topic number 5, the draft in college football. We're going to go mostly do some college previews of some really good games. Three games that face two ranked teams against each other. Let us start with the afternoon game, I should say. Number 1, Alabama at number 9, Tennessee. Great matchup, Russ. There's individual matchups galore in this one, but there's one in particular that you really like set us up this game that could have a huge say on how the SEC plays out. Well,
firstly, for you it may be afternoon. For me, I will be struggling to stay awake late enough to watch this, as I will be in London. But
that's right. Yep.
I am excited because Cam Robinson, Alabama's left tackle, is going against Derek Barnett, Tennessee's elite pass rusher. This is a great matchup. I mean, when you look at Robinson, you look at a long, linear kid. He's got good feet, he knows how to use his hands, and he does have a tendency to play better against the better opponents. If you look back and see Myles Garrett, when they went against each other, he held his own. And then you have Barnett, who is just every game he's played at Tennessee, he's gotten better and better. He already has 5 sacks this season, or in the last 3 games he has 5 sacks. He is a powerful kid. He knows how to use his hands. He has a feel for how to rush the passer. I really think you're looking, as long as character checks out, at potentially 2 of the top 5 or 6 players to be drafted in the 2017 NFL Draft. To get to watch them go up against each other 50 or 60 snaps, I think it's fantastic. I think it's much must-watch TV for anybody that follows the NFL Draft.
Chris, the formula for Tennessee the first 5-6 weeks of the season, get behind by 14, 21 points, storm back, kill them in the fourth quarter. They came up a little short last week. The first time that didn't serve them well. Obviously, with Bama, you can't afford to get in one of those kind of holes, I would think. I mean, what do you see in this game when you look at it? You've got 2 athletic quarterbacks, one experienced, one a freshman with Hurts. What do you think when you look at this game on the whole?
Well, I think you try to speed up the game, try and get the run game going, get off the feet, keep things going. And when you're on defense, try to get off the field, keep them in third and long behind the chains. But as Russ pointed out, with Derek Barnett, he's a guy that sort of fits the bill. I was talking to a scout just earlier today, said he reminds him a little bit of Shaq Lawson, watching how he plays. So I think that's going to be an extraordinary matchup. Alabama, though, clicking on all cylinders. You guys know I love Calvin Ridley. So I think it'll be a great contest. But in the end, I think Alabama may be too much.
All right, let's move on to number 12 going to number 22. That's Ole Miss at Arkansas. Maybe not the sexiest game ever, but an important one too. Both teams have a pair of losses. And last year we had an incredible game between these ones. I think it was 53-52 in overtime. Arkansas has gotten the win the last 2 years here. The Rebels have done a really good job of getting after teams early. They've outscored teams 131-40 in the first half. Chad Kelly has played well. He's kind of a controversial guy. He gets in a fight at his brother's high school game the other day and all that stuff. But, you've got him. You've got the talent at wide receiver. And then you've got this Arkansas team that maybe not as gifted, but Austin Allen, following in his brother's footsteps, has played well. Russ, anything stand out to you in this game between Ole Miss and Arkansas?
Well, I mean, I think the thing here is when I look at Mississippi, I see a very inconsistent team. They tend to race out in front, and then they tend to take that foot off the pedal. Arkansas is sort of the opposite. And I know, Chris, you know their head coach, and his sort of mantra is we're going to beat you into the ground, so we're going to win this game by outworking you, out-competing you, out-toughing you. And I think that's going to be why Arkansas wins this game. I think that early on, as long as they can take the punches from Kelly, not get behind by 4 or 5 touchdowns, if they keep it within 14 points, I think they're going to wear down Mississippi, and they're going to win this game. I will say to me, and Chris, you probably know this more than anybody else, having played and also being an agent, I got to believe that Chad Kelly got a talking to before the season from Jim Kelly. And he said, you've had trouble off the field. Do not, in any way, even jaywalk this year. Just go 1 year without doing anything, and you're going to be a first or a second round pick. And this guy can't go a month into the season before he screws up when he's at his cousin or his brother's high school football game? Are you kidding me? That, to me, is a huge red flag that this kid can't control his emotions.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I would certainly say that team goes as he goes. If they're inconsistent because Chad Kelly's inconsistent, and yeah, Russ, you're right. I mean, you go in there with so much on the line, you want to see a kid be a monk. But I would say this, though, a guy like that who's a fast heartbeat guy, that will be spun back to say, look, he's a family guy. You know, he wants to protect his brothers. He's going to get in the fight, ball his fist up. So he's the guy that we want leading the charge. And I think that's how it'll be kind of positioned back. But, yeah, it's a bonehead thing that he did. That being said, I think this will be a good contest. Brett Bielema's got his boys playing good football. They do want to ground and pound, speed things up from their perspective, too. And they're a talented team. So this will be a good matchup. I would agree with Russ, though. I think in the end, Arkansas is going to be a little too much.
All right, let's wrap it up. Speaking of Brett Bielema, the night game, the big one that everyone is looking forward to, most people are looking forward to, that would be Ohio State at Wisconsin. Very intriguing matchup here. Bielema's former team. They've got a great defense. They don't score a lot of points. This Ohio State team lost a ton, probably more than any team I can remember in terms of NFL draft prospects, seniors leaving the team, underclassmen as well. This one's at Camp Randall. Interesting that Ohio State, almost a 10-point favorite, 9.5 was the last one I saw. Vince Beagle not going to be playing. Still some good linebacker talent without them. Two pretty good running backs, too. Mike Weber's done a great job this year. I think he leads the Big Ten in rushing, but he came off sort of a so-so game against Indiana. On the other side, Corey Clement been a little off. You know, he hasn't had a lot of great games this season based on where we expected him to be. So, Russ, the big game at night, Saturday night. I know you won't be watching live, but what do you think about this one?
You know, I feel bad. You mentioned Corey Clement. I feel bad for the kid. That offensive line is just, they're not a good offensive line. All these new starters this year, they're missing blocks. They're getting pushed backwards. I've been so disappointed with their ability to at least run the ball like an average Wisconsin team. They are really doing a bad job. I really think this one's going to be a game where Ohio State gets up on them early, and they're going to run away from them. I agree, 10 points, you rarely see that going to Wisconsin, but I think that tells you what people think of Ohio State. I'd be shocked if this is within 3 touchdowns come the fourth quarter. Ohio State has so many weapons, even though most of them are guys that weren't starting last year. I think this is going to be a boat race. I think they're going to kill Wisconsin.
Hey, Chris, let me ask you this in this way. I mean, this will be the third straight top 10 opponent for Wisconsin, so they've been in that big game environment recently. They're keyed up. They know exactly what this game is going to be like. You know, intensity-wise, talent-wise, and all that. But I don't know. I mean, I just worry, is it going to be like the Michigan game again where they just can't score points and get on the scoreboard? I think the defense will be respectable. I worry about that offense, though. What do you think?
Yeah, but it seems like every time we think Wisconsin's not going to show up to the party, then they do. And I think that's the one thing I would note here, because every time and I'd be the first to say, look, I think going in there going to get blown out. And then somehow they either find a way or make a way. I would have to think that'll be the case this weekend, especially in Camp Randall. I've always said that's one of the hardest places I've ever had to play, college and or pro. So it'll be a big matchup. I think the big key for Wisconsin is you can't give up those explosive plays. Because Ohio State, they're a team that they live and die on the big play. You have to methodically make them work themselves down the field and then see if they can do it. But you just can't give up the chunk plays. If Wisconsin can keep everything in front of them, especially in that secondary, I think they're going to have a chance.
I wrote about some quarterbacks on the Shutdown Corner this week. One of the guys I mentioned in terms of the NFL was J.T. Barrett. Now, he's not considered maybe an elite NFL prospect, but you start hearing his name a little bit more. Fourth-year junior, might consider coming out given the situation at Ohio State. He's had an injury already in his career. So, this is the kind of environment. If he plays well, that would be a big game to put on his NFL draft stock or his stamp, whatever you think. Russ, do you see him at all in good NFL terms as far as being a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, if you accepting of what he is, if you bring him in expecting him to be a starter, I think you'll be disappointed. But if you bring him in saying, hey, this is a great teammate, a guy who is going to be a 3 initially and could eventually be a change of pace backup quarterback who could come in and spark the team, who's always going to do what's good for the team, yeah, I think there's something there. I'll tell you, to me, I like him, but the more intriguing guy to me in the Big Ten, he's not playing this week, Mitch Leidner out of Minnesota. Not a high pick by any stretch. He's a day 3 pick at best. But those physical tools, that size, that arm strength, He's a very intriguing kid. But I think Barrett's got a future in the NFL.
I'll throw a name out there, Tyrod Taylor, Chris. Does he at least remind you of that? And you sit on him for 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, like Taylor did in Baltimore. All of a sudden he goes to Buffalo. Nobody expects anything, and he comes out and he's a multi-million-dollar quarterback. Same, short, athletic. He's got the good downfield touch. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
You guys know I've always said in this business that people shop on busy streets, and the fact that we've had a lot of quarterbacks with similar type traits recently doing successfully in the NFL, somebody's going to give him a shot pretty high.
I agree.
He's a guy that can throw it. He's smart. He's a quick study. He can swallow a playbook, and he does provide those athletic traits that you look for. So you say, okay, well, we saw a quick sample of Jacoby Brissett. We've seen Dak Prescott do it. So we've seen some guys that kind of have that body type disposition. So I think he's going to have a shot. So we'll see if it works out for him. But I would think he's going to go high to mid for sure.
All right, good stuff here on the Rec League podcast. That's going to do it for this week as we enter Week 6 of the NFL and a pretty good weekend in college football as well. Check it out on GM Junior Scouting, also on this YouTube channel. We do this every week. We preview the games. We look back at the week before, talk some draft, look big picture, and I hope you join us going forward. For Russ and Chris, this is Eric. We will see you guys next week.